Beneath the still, shimmering waters of the Dead Sea, a secret lay, buried for millennia, waiting, silent, almost sacred. Scientists, armed with instruments of modern precision, descended into depths few had dared to explore. What they discovered was not just ancient, it was transformative, a window into a past that had been lost, forgotten, or perhaps intentionally hidden. And as their findings came to light, the world could not look away. The Dead Sea has always held a reputation for mystery. Known as the lowest point on Earth, its shores have seen empires rise and fall, prophets walk and preach, and pilgrims seek solace. But beneath its mineral-rich surface, under layers of salt and sediment, lay a story no map had ever charted. It was a story that challenged everything we thought we knew about the region's history, its people, and even the fragile balance of life itself. Imagine for a moment a place untouched by time, where the weight of centuries presses down silently. This was not just a geological formation or an archaeological site, it was a hidden archive. Scientists began their work cautiously, aware that every probe, every sonar scan, might reveal a truth more shocking than the last. And soon enough the data started to whisper. Structures, some massive, others delicate and intricate, appeared beneath the surface. Some scholars suggest these could be remnants of cities, lost to the cataclysmic forces of nature described in ancient texts. Others believed they were sacred precincts, long submerged to protect them from human eyes. The question that haunted every researcher was simple yet profound. Why here? Why the Dead Sea? The answers were not immediately obvious, but as layers of sediment were carefully removed, a pattern emerged. One that suggested human intervention, engineering, and a civilization's intimate knowledge of its environment. There were signs of docks, perhaps once used to transport goods or pilgrims. Carved stones and inscriptions hinted at rituals and governance structures far more sophisticated than previously imagined. Every artifact recovered carried the silent weight of countless generations, of lives lived in devotion, toil, and hope. Yet, it was not merely the material evidence that captivated the world. It was the implications. The findings suggested a civilization that had not only survived, but thrived in an environment harsh by any measure. Salt-encrusted walls and mineralized objects told a story of resilience and ingenuity. They spoke of people who understood the delicate balance between land and water, between survival and spirituality. Scholars now debated whether this discovery could rewrite chapters of biblical history, offering context to passages long interpreted through faith, but never through the lens of archaeology, and still questions multiplied. How had these structures remained preserved beneath corrosive waters for so long? What events could have led to their sudden disappearance, leaving only whispers in the geological record? Some pointed to seismic activity, others to climatic shifts, and yet others to conflict, suggesting that human ambition and divine providence were intertwined in ways modern eyes could barely comprehend. The Dead Sea, in its quiet grandeur, had become a cryptic storyteller, revealing just enough to ignite curiosity, yet withholding the full narrative. In the midst of these revelations, the scientific teams themselves faced dilemmas. Each discovery was a double-edged sword. While they offered insights into antiquity, they also raised ethical questions about excavation, preservation, and the interpretation of sacred spaces. Could the past be fully understood without distorting its meaning? Could the stories embedded in these stones speak to our present, or were they destined to remain relics, admired but ultimately silent? The challenge was enormous, yet the pursuit irresistible. As the weeks turned into months, technological advances accelerated the pace of discovery. Underwater drones mapped the contours of submerged streets. Ground-penetrating radar revealed anomalies beneath layers of salt. Laboratories analyzed sediment cores for pollen, ash, and traces of human activity. Each finding became a piece of a grand puzzle. hinting at a culture that had once pulsed with life, where now only silence reigned. Perhaps the most astonishing element was not just what lay beneath the Dead Sea, but what it implied about human history itself. The discoveries hinted at connections across regions, trade routes that crisscrossed deserts, and cultural exchanges previously undocumented. Some inscriptions resembled scripts found in distant lands, suggesting networks of knowledge, religion and commerce that modern scholars had only begun to comprehend. The Dead Sea, long viewed as an endpoint, a place of salt and desolation, revealed itself as a hub of ancient vitality. And yet the story was far from complete. Every revelation seemed to invite another question, another mystery waiting to be solved. Was this the same civilization referenced in biblical accounts, or something entirely different, lost to the margins of history? Could their story illuminate truths about our own origins, our spirituality, or even the fragility of our modern world? As the sun set over the shimmering waters, the Dead Sea held its secrets close, offering glimpses that promised awe, reflection, and perhaps even transformation for those willing to listen. For those watching these discoveries unfold, there is a quiet invitation to ponder the vastness of history, the endurance of human spirit, and the mysteries still hidden beneath our feet. If this stirred something in you, leave a word below so others know they're not alone in their wonder. The Dead Sea's depths have spoken, but their message is far from fully heard. The question lingers as it always has. What else lies beneath, waiting, silent and eternal, ready to challenge everything we thought we knew about our world? And when the next discovery comes, will we recognize it? Or will it slip silently back into the shadows, like so many secrets before it? The Dead Sea's secrets did not yield easily. The first signs came in whispers through scientific journals, reports of anomalies in sonar scans and irregular sediment formations. At first, these findings were dismissed as natural geological phenomena, the work of shifting earth and mineral deposits. But as teams returned, equipped with more sophisticated tools, the patterns became impossible to ignore. There were outlines of streets, walls and foundations, deliberate human-made structures submerged beneath layers of salt and water. Some scholars suggested these could belong to a city lost in antiquity, swallowed by a sudden catastrophe, its memory preserved only in scripture and legend. Historical texts began to take on new significance. References in the Dead Sea Scrolls, long studied for their religious and linguistic value, were re-examined under this fresh light. Could these scrolls be pointing not merely to spiritual truths, but to historical events hidden beneath the waters? One fragment in particular described a settlement near a body of water, where salt and flame guard the gates of men. For decades, it had been interpreted metaphorically, a symbol of divine judgment. Now, as archaeologists uncovered walls and remnants beneath the Dead Sea's surface, the line between legend and reality blurred. The teams worked methodically. Drones swept the surface, sonar painted three-dimensional images of submerged architecture, and divers recorded every anomaly. One morning, a massive stone platform emerged on screen, perfectly square, with channels that hinted at irrigation or water management. The sophistication of the construction astonished experts. How had a civilization in such a harsh environment managed to harness resources so effectively? The Dead Sea, notorious for its hypersalinity, had become a cradle of ingenuity rather than a symbol of desolation. As findings accumulated, the implications rippled through the academic world. Some archaeologists began to speculate that this site could predate well-known kingdoms of the region. Pottery shards, carbon dating, and mineral analysis suggested a timeline that might place this civilization alongside or even before the kingdoms of ancient Judea and Edom. If true, these discoveries would force historians to rethink the development of society in the Levant, the flow of trade, and the spread of culture. Trade routes, once thought to pass far from the Dead Sea, now might have converged here, making this hidden city a hub of commerce and spiritual activity. The intrigue deepened when inscriptions surfaced on submerged stones. The language was partially familiar, yet oddly archaic, a dialect not fully recognized by any contemporary scholars. Some believed it to be a precursor to the Hebrew script, others suggested it was a regional variant, used for administrative or religious purposes. Even the simplest words, names of deities, towns, or rulers, carried profound weight. They told of governance, devotion, and daily life, painting a portrait of a society as complex as any on the broader plains of Mesopotamia or the Nile Valley. Yet, amidst the wonder, challenges emerged. The Dead Sea is inhospitable by design, its waters dense and corrosive, its salt-laden air unrelenting. Diving and excavation were perilous. Equipment corroded quickly, and natural sinkholes threatened the stability of any submerged site. Many early missions were cut short, forcing scientists to adapt, innovate, and rely increasingly on technology. Remote sensing became a lifeline, allowing researchers to map, measure, and model without risking human life. And every successful scan revealed more questions than answers. Local legends added a layer of mystique. Bedouin elders spoke of places where the waters were restless, where voices could be heard beneath the surface. Some told of vanished settlements, swallowed by the earth or punished by divine wrath. Scholars debated the validity of these stories, but their resonance with the emerging archaeological evidence could not be ignored. It was as if myth and history had converged beneath the Dead Sea, whispering truths long obscured by salt, time, and faith. International attention grew. Teams from Israel, Jordan, and beyond joined in collaborative efforts, seeking permits and forming alliances to unlock this underwater enigma. Ethical considerations were paramount. The site was sacred in multiple ways, intertwined with biblical heritage and local cultural memory. Every excavation required careful negotiation, consultation, and respect for history that belonged not just to science, but to the descendants of those who had walked these shores. The stakes were high, and the discoveries only intensified the responsibility. Perhaps most astonishing were the glimpses of daily life. Carved stones showed evidence of workshops, storage rooms, and communal spaces. Remnants of pottery, tools, and even organic material hinted at diets, rituals, and crafts. This was not a fleeting outpost, but a thriving settlement, sustained by ingenuity, cooperation, and a deep understanding of the environment. Scholars began to see that the story beneath the Dead Sea was not one of devastation alone, but of resilience, adaptation, and human spirit pressed against the harshest of landscapes. With each finding, the narrative became more vivid. A city engineered with precision, thriving along trade routes, anchored in faith and practicality, yet ultimately reclaimed by the waters. The tension between permanence and impermanence, the human desire to endure, and nature's inevitable reclamation, resonated with viewers and researchers alike. The submerged city became a mirror, reflecting both the brilliance and fragility of civilization. And as these revelations unfolded, the world watched, captivated by the blend of history, mystery, and spiritual resonance. The Dead Sea, once seen as a mere geographical curiosity, had become a living archive, a reminder of the depths of human creativity and the relentless march of time. The submerged city spoke across millennia, inviting reflection, awe, and reverence. If the discoveries beneath the Dead Sea ignite curiosity in your own life, take a moment to reflect on the hidden stories around you, the legacies buried in plain sight, waiting to be uncovered. The revelations beneath the Dead Sea are more than historical curiosities. They are mirrors held up to our own lives. As we consider a civilization that flourished in the harshest of conditions, we are reminded that resilience is born not from ease, but from challenge. These submerged streets, salt-encrusted and silent, whisper lessons about human perseverance, the pursuit of knowledge, and the quiet power of faith threaded through everyday existence. For viewers today, there is a profound question to ponder. If a civilization could thrive where survival seemed impossible, what can we achieve when our own circumstances feel overwhelming? Every artifact tells a story. A carved stone hints at craftsmanship and artistry, a reflection of individuals dedicating themselves to beauty and function despite the unforgiving environment. A fragment of pottery, with traces of meals long past, speaks to the ordinary yet sacred rhythms of daily life. The Dead Sea civilization, though lost beneath the waters, reminds us that every small action, every decision to create, to care, to persevere, leaves a mark on the world. In this light, the submerged city becomes not merely an archaeological site, but a mirror for personal reflection. What marks are we leaving, and how do our efforts, however humble, endure beyond the moment? The strategic ingenuity of these ancient people offers another lesson. They understood their environment intimately. Canals and channels, carefully engineered, show a civilization attuned to both scarcity and abundance, able to harness the resources around them with foresight and wisdom. Today, we are challenged in similar ways, albeit in modern contexts, navigating careers, relationships, and spiritual growth within complex systems. The lesson is subtle yet powerful. Knowledge is most potent when applied with purpose and care. Just as the Dead Sea settlers manipulated salt, water, and stone to create thriving spaces, we too can shape the conditions of our lives, even amid difficulties that seem insurmountable. Faith was interwoven with everyday existence. Symbols and inscriptions hint at rituals, communal gatherings, and spiritual devotion. It is a reminder that resilience is not only practical, but spiritual, a balance of action and reflection. We are invited to consider the ways in which our own beliefs, values, or faith practices can anchor us. Even when life feels corrosive or overwhelming, as the Dead Sea waters are to unprotected materials, there is strength in grounding ourselves in something enduring, principles, community, or divine guidance. There is also the humbling reminder of impermanence. Despite ingenuity, faith, and effort, this civilization ultimately succumbed to forces beyond its control, nature, perhaps calamity, or shifts in climate. Their disappearance underscores a truth that resonates across time. Human life is both fragile and fleeting, yet even in disappearance they left traces, reminders that every era, every life, every choice leaves echoes. In our own lives, we may never face literal submersion beneath salt and water, but we encounter forms of loss, change, and endings daily. The challenge is to see these not as defeats, but as part of a larger rhythm where perseverance, creativity, and legacy continue to matter. In reflecting on these submerged streets, one cannot ignore the courage it took to build in adversity. Families, leaders, and workers committed to something larger than themselves, enduring physical hardships, social challenges, and spiritual trials. They remind us that community, cooperation, and shared vision are pillars of enduring achievement. Modern viewers may take this lesson into personal arenas, investing in relationships, supporting causes, or mentoring others. Understanding that the impact of our efforts is often greater than the immediate visibility of results. Even the mystery itself offers a lesson. Not every question beneath the Dead Sea has been answered. Scholars debate, hypotheses evolve, and interpretations shift. Similarly, in life, not all challenges come with immediate clarity or resolution. We are often asked to act, to persist, and to grow, even without seeing the full picture. The courage to move forward, to build, to engage in the work of life while mysteries remain unsolved, is a recurring theme both beneath the Dead Sea and in our daily existence. The discoveries also encourage reflection on stewardship. These sites, sacred and fragile, remind us that what we inherit from the past carries responsibility. How we treat knowledge, relationships, or the earth itself has consequences beyond our own lifetimes. Just as researchers carefully balance curiosity with preservation, we are invited to live in ways that honor both heritage and possibility, protecting what is sacred, yet daring to explore what is unknown. Finally, the submerged city teaches us to value wonder. In a world saturated with noise and distraction, the awe inspired by ancient discovery rekindles curiosity, humility, and reverence. Pause, reflect, and consider. How often do we allow ourselves to experience wonder in our daily routines? The Dead Sea civilization, hidden yet enduring, calls us to notice, to marvel, and to imagine. Their story becomes not just history, but an invitation to approach life with eyes open to mystery, courage, and beauty. If the story beneath the Dead Sea stirs reflection in your own life, share it with someone who might also need a reminder of resilience, courage, and the quiet power of human spirit. These lessons, like the submerged city itself, endure across time, awaiting those willing to see and learn. Even as we marvel at the ingenuity and resilience of the civilization beneath the Dead Sea, we must confront the darker truths that shadow every great story. For every structure, every artifact, there is an echo of struggle, a reminder that survival in a harsh world is never guaranteed. The submerged city, preserved in salt and sediment, speaks as much of fear, loss, and limitation as it does of triumph. And in reflecting on these ancient lives, we are compelled to face the obstacles within our own lives, the doubts, the inner battles, and the pressures that threaten to submerge our potential. Consider the environment itself. The Dead Sea is unforgiving, its waters are corrosive, and its surrounding land is harsh, almost inhospitable. For the people who once thrived here, daily life demanded constant vigilance, adaptability, and courage. One misstep, a poorly constructed wall, a failed crop, a shift in the water table, could mean disaster. Likewise, in our own lives, the forces that surround us are rarely gentle. Economic pressures, relational strains, emotional turbulence, and spiritual uncertainty create a corrosive atmosphere that tests endurance and faith. Yet, as the ancient settlers show, even in extremity, persistence and ingenuity can carve out space for life and meaning. The artifacts reveal moments of crisis. Collapsed walls, salt-crusted tools, and fragmented pottery suggest sudden upheavals, perhaps earthquakes, floods, or other cataclysmic events. It is a stark reminder that no matter how strong or prepared we are, unforeseen challenges can alter our lives in an instant. And yet, the very survival of traces, the faint remnants of walls and daily objects, speaks to resilience, adaptation, and recovery. It invites a reflection. Even when life overwhelms us, the smallest acts of endurance leave a legacy. Every choice, every effort, however fragile, has the power to withstand time in ways unseen. Inner doubts mirror the external challenges. How often do we face tasks that seem insurmountable, obstacles that feel like salt-crusted walls between us and progress? Ancient settlers undoubtedly questioned their path, wondered if their efforts were enough, and struggled against forces beyond their control. Similarly, fear and hesitation can immobilize us today. We may hesitate to pursue dreams, speak truth, or act courageously because the risks seem too great. Yet the story beneath the Dead Sea reminds us that persistence is forged precisely through struggle, and that courage often emerges in the quiet, relentless commitment to continue. The risk of failure is intertwined with the pursuit of purpose. These people invested in building a city in a challenging landscape, yet time, nature, or unforeseen calamity erased their visible triumphs. Their story resonates with anyone pursuing meaningful work, whether spiritual, professional, or personal. Success is rarely guaranteed, but the act of striving, of creating, learning, and nurturing carries intrinsic value. Each submerged stone, each carefully etched symbol, is proof that effort matters, even when outcomes are uncertain. Isolation was likely another obstacle. The Dead Sea region, while a hub of trade and culture, is also physically remote. Communities here would have contended with geographic isolation, scarcity, and limited support. In our lives, isolation can take many forms: emotional, social, or spiritual. We may feel disconnected, unseen, or overwhelmed. Yet, as the civilization beneath the Dead Sea demonstrates, even in isolation, cooperation, resourcefulness, and faith create the conditions for survival and growth. Strength is often cultivated not in comfort, but in the spaces where support feels distant and persistence becomes a choice rather than a guarantee. Fear of the unknown adds another layer to the human struggle. The sudden disappearance of the city, whether through natural disaster, climate shifts, or conflict, reminds us that the future is never fully within our control. Uncertainty can paralyze, yet it can also illuminate creativity, courage, and insight. The ancient settlers lived in a world of constant unpredictability. They built, adapted, and persevered without knowing what each new day would bring. Their example challenges us to confront our own fears, to act with faith and intelligence, and to continue forward even when clarity is scarce. The Dead Sea itself becomes a metaphor for inner struggle. Dense, corrosive, and unyielding in some places, it demands respect and careful navigation. Similarly, our internal landscapes, fears, doubts, regrets, can feel like forces that erode confidence, obscure purpose, and threaten forward motion. Yet, as divers navigating beneath the waters discovered ruins and artifacts, we too can find treasures within ourselves, resilience, insight, and the capacity to endure beyond what seems possible. Obstacles may shape us, but they do not define us unless we allow them to. Even the scientific teams faced resistance. Equipment failed, access was limited, and progress was painstakingly slow. Collaboration was essential, but coordination across cultures, disciplines, and traditions added layers of complexity. This mirrors the human journey. Challenges are rarely solo ventures, and perseverance often requires humility, patience, and reliance on others. The lesson is clear. Obstacles test not only strength but character, and the courage to continue defines the trajectory of our growth. The story of the Dead Sea civilization's struggle and survival offers a mirror for every modern viewer. Hardship is inevitable, fear is natural, and doubt is real. Yet perseverance, faith, and action, small, consistent, and courageous, create the conditions for transformation. If you stay with the journey, observing both the failures and the triumphs, you will see that obstacles are not the end of the story, but a prelude to insight, growth, and unexpected revelation. Amid the shadows of loss and the weight of challenge, the story beneath the Dead Sea reveals a moment of transformation, a vision of what is possible when resilience, ingenuity, and faith converge. As researchers continued their painstaking work, they uncovered spaces that suggested not only survival, but thriving life. A communal hall where gatherings were held, platforms that may have hosted rituals, and storage rooms brimming with the promise of sustenance and planning. These were not relics of despair, but markers of deliberate design, of hope encoded in stone and salt. It was a civilization's quiet declaration that even in the harshest environment, life could flourish. The realization reframed everything. The submerged city, once a symbol of mystery and loss, became a testament to human potential. Its structures, carefully engineered and beautifully aligned, showed that vision matters, that foresight and commitment create a legacy that transcends immediate circumstance. For us today, the lesson is clear. Transformation begins when we see beyond the constraints of our present situation and act with intention, using whatever tools, skills, or insights we possess. What may seem insurmountable is often the canvas upon which innovation and courage are painted. In exploring these depths, Scientists also discovered patterns that hinted at spiritual insight intertwined with daily life. Certain carvings and alignments suggested observance of celestial events, cycles of the moon, and solar patterns. It was a civilization deeply attuned not just to survival, but to meaning, ritual, and a sense of the sacred. This harmony between practical life and spiritual awareness offers a profound vision for us. Our routines, choices, and struggles can also be avenues of connection with something greater than ourselves. Transformation is not only material, it is spiritual, emotional, and intellectual. The vision extends to community and collaboration. The scale of the city suggests collective effort, cooperation, and shared responsibility. This submerged civilization reminds us that our greatest transformations often emerge in partnership, when we align our efforts toward common goals, nurture relationships, and invest in collective growth. Just as their city required planning, communication, and trust, our personal and societal transformations demand a willingness to engage, contribute, and support one another through adversity and ambition alike. Perhaps most striking is the interplay between fragility and endurance. Salt, water, and time conspired to bury this civilization, yet it endures as a testament to ingenuity and courage. Likewise, our lives are subject to forces beyond control, but within our sphere lies the power to cultivate endurance, adaptability, and resilience. Transformation is rarely instantaneous. It is the product of consistent effort, insight, and reflection, often hidden beneath layers of challenge until revealed through persistence and faith. There is also the beauty of perspective. From above, the Dead Sea is vast and seemingly unchanging, a serene expanse. Beneath the surface, however, lies a bustling city frozen in time. The lesson is clear: life is layered. What is visible may be only a fraction of the whole story. Within us, as within the ancient city, lie hidden potential, untapped creativity, and reservoirs of strength waiting to be discovered. Transformation begins when we dive below the surface, confronting hidden fears, neglected talents, or buried wisdom, emerging renewed and equipped to act with purpose. The evidence of intentional design speaks to vision anchored in foresight. Channels for water management, storage solutions for scarce resources, and communal spaces all reflect planning that anticipated both need and opportunity. In our own journeys, vision operates similarly. Those who prepare, reflect, and act with careful intention are able to navigate uncertainty with resilience. Transformation is not luck. It is alignment of insight, courage, and persistent action. Even the smallest artifacts carry lessons. Fragments of pottery, tools, and inscriptions hint at routines and values, showing how attention to detail and respect for craft and knowledge cultivate enduring impact. In our lives, attention to small acts, kindness, learning, patience, or diligence can ripple outward, influencing relationships, communities, and even the future in ways we may not immediately see. Transformation is often cumulative, built from consistent, intentional actions that mirror the painstaking efforts of those who came before us. The vision is both ancient and immediate. The city beneath the Dead Sea, lost to catastrophe yet preserved, becomes a metaphor for our own capacity to rise above circumstance. Each stone, each channel, each inscription is a reminder that endurance, ingenuity, and spiritual grounding coalesce to create lasting impact. As viewers, we are invited to consider our own submerged potential. What is waiting beneath the surface of doubt, fear, or hesitation that could emerge transformed through courage and insight? In this moment of revelation, the world beneath the Dead Sea speaks to our present. Transformation is always possible, even in harsh environments, even amid uncertainty. Courage, faith, and deliberate action are the tools that bridge the gap between hidden potential and visible achievement. And when we recognize this, we are called to carry the lesson forward, not merely to marvel at the past, but to apply its wisdom in our own lives, creating a legacy of endurance, insight, and hope. If this vision of resilience and hidden potential speaks to you, share it with someone who needs a reminder that transformation is possible, even when circumstances seem insurmountable. The story beneath the Dead Sea shows us that even the deepest layers can give rise to light and insight if we are willing to dive and explore. As we reach the culmination of the story beneath the Dead Sea, the weight of what has been uncovered settles like a quiet awe over the mind and heart. The submerged city, once hidden beneath layers of salt, sediment, and time, has emerged not only as a testament to human ingenuity, but also as a mirror for our own lives. Its streets, walls, and inscriptions invite reflection on perseverance, vision, and the delicate interplay between mortality and legacy. What seems lost forever can endure, silently influencing those willing to witness, learn, and act. The central truth is clear. Life, in its deepest sense, is both fragile and enduring. The civilization beneath the Dead Sea flourished against all odds, navigated relentless environmental challenges, and yet ultimately succumbed to forces beyond control. Yet it left behind traces, a language etched in stone, remnants of daily life, and patterns of thought and faith that speak across millennia. These remnants challenge us to consider our own impermanence, the meaning of our actions, and the unseen impact of our daily choices. Every effort, however small, leaves an imprint, waiting to be discovered by those who will come after us. There is also a sacred rhythm to the story. The Dead Sea itself, long regarded as a place of stillness, judgment, and reflection, becomes more than a geographical feature. It is a witness, a guardian of memory, and a vessel of transformation. The civilization beneath its waters reminds us that even in the quietest, harshest, or most obscure places, life seeks expression, endurance, and meaning. Similarly, our own challenges, setbacks, and trials, though sometimes invisible to others, can be the very spaces where resilience and growth are forged. Faith and human spirit are inseparable threads in this narrative. The structures, inscriptions, and evidence of communal life reflect a civilization anchored not only in practicality, but in devotion, belief, and shared purpose. In our lives, enduring faith, whether in the divine, in community, or in the values we hold, provides the framework within which resilience, vision, and transformation take root. It is a reminder that enduring achievements are rarely purely material. They are nurtured by conviction, courage, and hope. The journey beneath the Dead Sea also underscores the value of curiosity, exploration, and reverence for the unknown. Scholars, researchers, and explorers approach the depths with respect, patience, and meticulous care, aware that every discovery carries both insight and responsibility. In life, the pursuit of knowledge, self-awareness, and understanding requires the same discipline. Transformation emerges when we combine inquiry with humility, seeking truth while honoring the vastness of what remains unseen. Finally, the story encourages us to recognize interconnectedness. Trade routes, inscriptions, and architectural patterns suggest that the civilization was not isolated, but part of a larger web of cultures, ideas, and spiritual practices. Similarly, our lives are intertwined with those of others across generations, geographies, and cultures. Our actions, decisions, and legacies ripple outward, touching unseen corners and influencing paths we may never witness. The submerged city becomes a call to live deliberately, to act courageously, and to nurture connections that transcend the immediate moment. As we reflect on the Dead Sea's hidden civilization, the enduring lesson is one of awe, humility, and inspiration. The depths of the earth preserved life's story for millennia, waiting for eyes that would see, hearts that would understand, and minds willing to learn. In our own lives, what is hidden, potential, courage, faith, or insight, awaits discovery and expression. Transformation, endurance, and revelation are never beyond reach. They reside beneath the surface, ready to emerge when we are willing to dive deeply, act boldly, and trust in the unfolding journey. If this journey beneath the Dead Sea has stirred something within you, let it inspire your own exploration, reflection, and action. Share it with those who need a reminder that even in the depths, whether of life, faith, or circumstance, light, insight, and resilience can rise, shaping a legacy that endures far beyond the moment. And in remembering the ancient city beneath the waters, may we carry forward a sacred truth that what is submerged is not lost, and that the courage to seek, learn, and transform is the very measure of human and spiritual life.